Greetings, everyone. Wow, they're playing my music to open up this event. How about that? Thank you so much. My distinct pleasure to be here. I'm Jay Sennett, jazz host and producer for Senate in Session on WHRV FM 89.5. I'd like to welcome all of you to the first VMA event of its kind, Feeding Virginia, VMA's 100-year finale and charity event. Let's give a round of applause for that. Yes, yes. Now, we are following social protocols in here, so we have our distancing and not many people in the room, but wherever you're watching from, this is a virtual live event that will benefit the Federation of Food Banks, who help over 1 million people in our Virginia communities every year. A lot of hungry people out here, folks. The pandemic has just turned everything upside down for a lot of people. And this is a wonderful opportunity for you to do your part and help out a lot of folks in need of some food. Throughout the event, you'll notice we're practicing social distancing and taking the steps to stay safe. Even though vaccines are now being distributed, we must all remain vigilant about preventing the spread of COVID-19. February 13th, 2020 was our centennial anniversary, where we kicked off the celebration of 100 years of pride in our port and our industry. Many of you joined us in Richmond for the ceremonial charter signing. Our industry contributes to the economic well-being of the Commonwealth and helps create a brighter future for our communities. While the difficult circumstances of 2020 have given us challenges beyond our wildest imagination, we have also found ourselves with the rare opportunity to hold tight to the moments that really count. We have been able to connect with each other, spread light, and find comfort. Today, it is my honor to bring us together on a journey to give hope and provide some relief for those struggling with food insecurity in our communities, and to honor the Virginia Maritime Association's legacy of promoting, protecting, and encouraging commerce through Virginia's ports. We thank all of you for joining us. Wherever you are, thank you so much for tuning in. We have a great program lined up for you today, which includes hearing messages from the new CEO and Executive Director of the Virginia Port Authority, Stephen Edwards, motivational speaker, New York Times best-selling author, Esquire writer, and corporate consultant, Cal Fussman, the Governor of the great Commonwealth of Virginia, the Honorable Ralph Northam, and many more. Thank you to our sponsors, members, and friends for joining us for this live program to raise funds that will help struggling Virginians keep themselves and their families fed during these difficult times. Let us take a moment to honor our national anthem, brought to us by Stakeholder Engagement Director for Avangrid Renewables, Ashley McLeod.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Ashley. Beautifully done. Thank you very much. And thank you for your efforts to make the centennial a success during your time working at the VMA. Yeah. As VMA concludes its first century and begins a new century of maritime industry growth, we invite you to donate to the Virginia Federation of Food Banks. There is a donate button on the VMA page you are currently on, and you'll see buttons that offer different amounts, whatever can accommodate your budget. We would greatly appreciate your support. And I work for WHO, WHRV, and this past December we had a fundraiser, and our fundraiser was also tied in with the food bank. Part of the pledge, when people made their contributions, part of the pledge goes to the food banks. And something I learned that's very interesting, something like if you pledge $500, if you donated $600, that created 250 plates of food that people can have, that these struggling families can have access to. Think about that for a moment. 200 plates of food with a $500 pledge, $500 donation, that's a lot of food. Think about that. Just if you weren't thinking about it in whatever kind of way, think about it in that context. At any time during this event, with me talking or somebody else talking, you can click that button and give to this worthy cause. Our goal is to raise at least $100,000. $100,000, we can get there with your support, and we get there one donation at a time. Our goal is to raise $100,000 to benefit our communities. I will be giving you updates throughout our program on how close we are to this goal objective. Thank you to those who've already given. You've already given, you've already donated. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bless you. Thank you. And if you haven't made that donation yet, please find it in your heart. Give us some of your hard-earned money to help out a lot of folks. Pledge, donate today. 2020 has been a particularly catastrophic year, a catastrophic year indeed for those experiencing hunger insecurity in the Commonwealth. Your donations today will help alleviate the pain of many families. It is my pleasure to welcome to the stage VMA's 2020 chair, Raymond Newland. Raymond is also the principal owner of Newland Consulting, LLC, where he provides consulting and assistance related to logistics and cargo needs. Raymond is also a past president of VMA and a recipient of VMA's coveted Distinguished Service Award, the industry's highest honor.
Thank you, Jay. And thank you, Ashley, for singing the national anthem for us. Welcome to all of you who are virtually attending our 2020 centennial finale. It goes without saying that this has been a challenging year. Our 2020 committee began planning the year of our celebration in 2016. Our work concludes today with this event. It has been my distinguished honor to chair this committee, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank the committee members and the association for all their hard work in planning and execution. We wanted to showcase our association that has been around for 100 years. Not many companies nor associations get to have that distinction. We choose to reflect on its dream 100 years ago, its success throughout these 100 years, its role today, and its vision for tomorrow. We kicked off the 2020 centennial celebration in Richmond, Virginia, as mentioned by Jay, on February 13th, 2020. The original signing of our charter was the reason that we went up to Richmond for that day to do a ceremonial signing that would signal that a new commitment by our current executive committee officers, board members, and sponsors. It was a great evening and enjoyed by all in attendance. Then we were faced with something none of us planned, and that was a global pandemic. We altered our course and made changes as they were needed. We celebrated the 100 days that started with the signing. We had a dedication and signing ceremony of the mural that now stands on the north side of our building. Put together a special publication that reflects our history, our commitments, and what we are here today to conclude this year of celebration with a virtual finale. At this finale, the committee wanted to do something that would give meaning to its conclusion. And we wanted to provide immediate benefits, so it was decided to help fellow Virginians in our Commonwealth who have been directly affected as a result of the pandemic. It was decided that we would partner with the Federation of Virginia Food Banks. If you've donated, thank you. If you have not, please consider contributing so that money can help others in need. It is my pleasure to introduce Eddie Oliver, Executive Director of the Federation of Virginia Food Banks.
Thank you, Raymond, for that incredibly kind introduction. On behalf of our member food banks and the nearly 1 million Virginians that we serve each year, I want to thank you all for your incredibly generous support. I was so honored when I got the call from David and learned that the Federation would be part of this 100th anniversary celebration for such an essential and highly respected institution like the VMA. Many of you may be familiar with the Federation, but for those who are not, we are an organization leading advocacy, fundraising, and food procurement efforts in collaboration with all 7 food banks serving the Commonwealth. Our food banks have been working on the front lines of our hunger crisis in Virginia for more than 4 decades. And though that time window begins before I was even born, I can tell you with great confidence that we've never seen a year quite like 2020. Before I go into some of the challenges we're facing right now, though, I want to remind folks that there were 860,000 food insecure Virginians before the pandemic started, including 233,000 children who did not always know where their next meal would come from. Can you imagine, in a Commonwealth and a country as rich in resources as ours, 230,000 children? These are children who are too distracted by empty stomachs on Monday mornings to concentrate in class, and children who often dread the summer because it means they lose access to school breakfast and lunch. These are the folks that our food banks are here to serve. And it's very possible you can imagine what that's like because you may have been in that position yourself. Hunger is indiscriminate. It can be found in every type of community, rural, urban, suburban, and every type of home. Large, small, black, white, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. Hunger is pervasive, and hunger makes us weaker and sicker. It hurts our health outcomes and our education outcomes and damages our future prosperity as a result. This year, Feeding America estimates an additional 275,000 Virginians will experience food insecurity this year, taking us close to 1.2 million of our neighbors who are struggling to put enough food on the table. Our network of pantries, soup kitchens, and shelters has seen a surge in demand for emergency food assistance, on average at least 25% more people coming to our lines. Meanwhile, our sources of donated food have been less reliable due to disruptions in the food supply chain, and we're spending significantly more resources to respond to the challenges of the moment. Collectively, our 7 food banks spent 450% more money on purchased food last year just to keep up with the need. This is why your donations right now are so important. With the Federation's leadership, we're building pre-packed food packages with fewer volunteers than normal, stepping up where pantries have closed to offer large-scale, low-touch, sometimes drive-through distributions like you may have seen in the photo earlier. And we're serving hundreds, if not thousands, of households at a time. It has been and continues to be a tremendous challenge and likely will for some time to come. But we are up to the challenge because the community has stepped up with us, because you have stepped up and given so generously. Thank you again to the VMA for inviting us to be part of your special event and for recognizing the importance of addressing food insecurity to ensure the future strength of our Commonwealth.
Thank you, Eddie. An amazing organization and an amazing job indeed, and an important job. Thank you so much. This organization is truly amazing and helps countless families. Just a quick reminder, on the web page you are on, you'll see the donate buttons, and there are different amounts of money that you can donate. And we get to our goal objective 1 donation at a time. No donation too large, no donation too small. Whatever you can afford, make that donation now, and let's help out a bunch of people. Given the impact of the coronavirus on the world at large, it's critical that international commerce continue. We should also note the essential work that continues to be performed daily by frontline maritime and transportation workers to keep supply chains functioning, including medical and PPE supplies. The work at shipyards hasn't stopped, and the cargo terminals, ships, trains, and trucks keep moving the goods we all need while taking the steps to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. We've had a big year, haven't we? Truly. VMA has always been dedicated to its members, and 2020 has been no exception. We kicked off the centennial year with a wonderful charter signing in Richmond, Virginia. We've held chapter events in various cities, and we've pivoted other events into a virtual platform. Check out this quick video with some positive highlights of what 2020 looked like for the VMA, which will be followed by some words from the current VMA president, Mike Coleman, the president and CEO of CV International and Capes Shipping Agency. His companies provide logistics and trade compliance services to shippers and also offer a variety of services needed by ships coming to U.S. ports.
Thanks, Virginia Maritime Association.
Mike Coleman, and it is my honor to be serving as the 33rd President of the Virginia Maritime Association. It is a particular honor to be serving as President during our centennial year. Thank you again for attending our event today and for helping us in our effort to support the Federation of Virginia Food Banks. The VMA has a long, proud history of advocacy, collaboration, and growth. As a second-generation leader of a Virginia-based shipping company, I have seen firsthand in my career the value that the VMA brings to our maritime industry and our entire Commonwealth. The VMA is the voice of the port industries. It is the voice that promotes, protects, and encourages international and domestic commerce through the ports of Virginia. It is the voice that represents companies that produce 1 out of every 10 jobs in Virginia. The VMA's voice extends across the Commonwealth, into the halls of the General Assembly, into the halls of Congress, and beyond. Our future is just as important as our past, and the VMA and our industry have an exciting future ahead. Many years of the VMA's work continue to return results. We are off to the races with offshore wind as construction efforts and planning continue off our coast. The wind farms and their development will support jobs and tremendous activity in our ports. We have helped secure massive investments in our container terminals that have been handling record volumes without delay. Whether it's terminal expansion, dredging, road and rail improvements, or new developments such as offshore wind, the VMA is there advocating for our maritime industry, our ports, and all of our businesses. The growth will continue, and I have every confidence that the VMA will have incredible achievements to celebrate 100 years from now. As we embark on our next 100 years, I want to thank our VMA staff, our board and officers, and David White, our Executive Director, for his forward-looking leadership of the VMA. I also want to thank our members for all of their support of our initiatives over the years. The support and active involvement of our membership is the bedrock upon which great things happen. The collaboration that the VMA fosters between maritime-related industries and in many cases direct competitors is truly remarkable. That close collaboration allows us to achieve results that bring collective benefit to our industry and the Commonwealth as a whole. We are honored to have several distinguished guests participating in our event today, and it is my distinct pleasure to now introduce one of them, a true friend and advocate of the maritime industry, the Port of Virginia, and the VMA, Governor Ralph Northam.
Hello, I'm Governor Ralph Northam, and I'm pleased to join the Virginia Maritime Association today as you close out your centennial year. Time has flown by and much has happened since I was with you on February the 13th, 2020, to celebrate your 100th anniversary with a special centennial charter signing ceremony in Richmond. The port has flourished in the 100 years since VMA was established, and you have been at the center of every development along the way, defending and promoting the best interest of the maritime supply chain. I have seen firsthand how the culture of collaboration that VMA fosters is a competitive advantage for Virginia, and it must be maintained. And I have observed how the association has continued to raise the profile and stature of the port and the importance of the goods that move through it to positively impact the economic well-being of our Commonwealth. Those of us in positions of leadership in Virginia look to VMA when we are faced with difficult decisions affecting the port and trade. Speaking briefly to the unprecedented times we are living through right now, I want to express my gratitude to all of the essential businesses and workers in the maritime industry for doing your part to stay safe during this pandemic, while also continuing to keep our economy moving and our supply chain functioning. I also want to thank the VMA for using your closing centennial celebrations to raise funds for organizations that are providing vital support and services to Virginians amid the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. I encourage everyone watching to contribute in the ways you are able and to continue following public health and safety measures. This pandemic will end, and we are all ready for that end to come soon. While the vaccination efforts underway are a much-needed symbol of hope, we also know that this is just the beginning of what will be a months-long process to receive, distribute, and administer the vaccine as it becomes available. From my time in the General Assembly, then as Lieutenant Governor and now as Governor, I have recognized the value of policies and investments that support the maritime industry. And the importance has become even more apparent as we address the economic fallout of this health crisis, because the maritime industry is well positioned to lead Virginia's economic recovery. Virginia is at the forefront of the emerging offshore wind industry in the United States, with all of its promise for new investment and job creation. Our robust shipbuilding and repair industry is evolving to support a Navy that is growing and modernizing. Imports and exports are flowing through the expanded container terminals in record volumes and with efficiencies that will attract even more business and economic development. And I've been able to personally witness the dredging that is ongoing and will soon enable our Commonwealth to reclaim its title of having the deepest and safest channels on the East Coast. Again, VMA continues to play a vital role in achieving these goals. So on this last day of your centennial year, I am pleased to extend my deepest congratulations to VMA on a century of cultivating port growth, your association's membership, and statewide recognition, and the success that I know will endure as you embark on another century as the voice of port industries. Thank you again for all you do to support Virginia's ports and maritime industries.
VMA's had a tremendous impact, not only in this region, but on our state. Some people think that VMA is Hampton Roads, but it's for the whole state of Virginia. When you think about our bank and where we are in Richmond, Hampton Roads, and other parts of Virginia, and there's 70,000 jobs related to the maritime industry. If the maritime industry is doing well, our company's doing well. So the Maritime Association is in our blood, and we are proud to be a sponsor, particularly the 100th anniversary of the VMA.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you all who have already contributed so far. And I have some really good news, folks. Really good news, because this is like a fundraising event, and I told you I would let you know about these totals. Right now, you ready for this? Hold on to your seats. Hold on to your seats. $62,500. $62,500. Thank you so much. The goal objective is to get to at least $100,000, folks. Remember that goal, $100,000 at least before the program is over, to feed families dealing with hunger brought on by this terrible pandemic. The VMA started us with a contribution of $10,000. They are committing another $5,000 as a matching contribution to funds raised during the rest of this program. In other words, if you contribute $500, that turns that donation into $1,000, up to $5,000. If you contribute $50, that makes your donation $100. That's the way that matching, kind of a matching $5,000 challenge works. You can double the impact of each dollar you contribute by taking advantage right now of that $5,000, folks. That's a great thing. Press that donate button on that website, VMA website, to make your donation. At any time during this event, you can make that donation. If I'm talking or someone else is talking, and that's the only time that you can make that donation, don't hesitate, please. Click that button and donate for a very worthy cause. For over 4 decades, you have to listen to this guy's bio. This is pretty remarkable bios here. This gentleman has done some extraordinary things in the course of his career. For over 4 decades, Cal Fussman has interviewed hundreds of the world's influential individuals, such as Muhammad Ali, Jack Welch, Mikhail Gorbachev, Serena Williams, Kobe Bryant, Richard Branson, and a list of others. And it goes on and on and on. Now, as a New York Times best-selling author, keynote speaker, world-renowned interviewer, and host of the Big Questions podcast, Fussman teaches the world's largest companies, universities, and associations about leadership, storytelling, innovation, teamwork, and a lot more. It's pretty remarkable stuff there. When Cal speaks, you're listening to everyone he's ever interviewed. Lessons and stories from hundreds of world icons, all coming through one man in the fedora. Over the past several years, Cal has delivered keynotes for industry-leading organizations, including General Motors, Twitter, the Vanguard Group, Apple Music, Turner Broadcasting, YPO, Entrepreneurs Organization, and many others. Universities like UCLA and Georgetown, and at conferences as far as South Africa and Kenya. After Cal spoke at Facebook, Chris Saunders in Global Marketing Solutions said, "We literally have people using the term Cal question. Cal question." He has become a part of our culture. Born in Brooklyn, Fussman spent 10 straight years traveling the world. Now, this is the part of the bio that gets me. This is the one that, that knocks me out. This man was swimming over 18-foot tiger sharks. He said he wouldn't do that now, though, but back in the good old days, right? Rolling around with mountain gorillas in Rwanda and searching for gold in the Amazon. That gorilla thing sounds amazing. If you want to do that again, Cal, you gotta bring me along on that trip. He boxed against then undefeated world champion Julio Cesar Chavez, a fantastic boxer himself, world champion. He won a James Beard Award and served as sommelier atop the World Trade Center. My man loves some wine, yes indeed. We're so delighted to have him here to speak with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Cal Fussman.
Beautiful introduction. Thank you so much. And thank you for enabling me to put on a tie and my maritime blue suit. It has been a while. I'm so grateful that you all invited me to speak at the 100-year finale because it led to a bunch of promising thoughts about the future I wasn't expecting. Let me tell you how it happened. See, I'm a curious guy. I actually take a few minutes every day and go out to a place where it's green or maybe the blue water is around. I push away all the commotion at work, the havoc in the house, and I just take a few moments to be curious, just to ask some questions. And when I thought about what I was going to speak on this 100-year anniversary, a question came to mind. What would the speaker at the Virginia Maritime Association's 200th anniversary say? And I thought about it. I figured, well, it'd go back to the time when 56 signatures got the association rolling. It was back in 1920, right around the time of the Spanish flu pandemic. Certainly, the speaker would talk about the phenomenal progress made over the next 100 years. I mean, think about it. Go from 56 signatures to more than 500,000 Virginians having jobs that are somehow tethered or associated to the VMA. That speaker's got to be thinking, wow, the people who forged ahead, those resilient people that helped make the VMA become what it's become in 2120. Because think about it from the mind of that speaker. That speaker's thinking, back in 1920, there were no vaccines. Back in 2020, it took them a year to come up with a vaccine. How'd they do it? You see, in 2120, when you all celebrate your 200th anniversary, it's very likely that the technology will have evolved to a point where it's eliminated pandemics altogether. Now, I know that's a rosy picture, and I know that there are hardships and difficulties in every time. So let me tell you a story that helped me get through this current one. And it's a story that touches upon the ocean. It's a story about a surfer. His name is Laird Hamilton. I don't know if you know much about him, but he's not an ordinary surfer. Laird goes out into the middle of the ocean. They have boats tug him out there, and he looks for these gigantic waves, 60-foot waves, and those are the waves that he surfs. And I said to him, Laird, what happens when you go down under a 60-foot wave? All that energy and water, what do you do? How do you get out of it? And he said, Cal, first thing I do is I close my eyes. I don't even want to waste any energy seeing. I let my arms go out to my sides, limp, because I'm going to be thrown around like a rag doll in a washing machine. I got no control over it. Water's taking me wherever it wants to take me. But then he started to describe the ocean as a living being that it is. Tide goes in, tide comes out. Inhale, exhale. And he said there comes a moment when the ocean is going to take a breath. And you're going to feel that lightness. And when you feel that lightness, that's the moment that you open your eyes and you shoot to the surface. And I'm here to tell you that right now, on this stage, I feel that lightness. This is the time for us to open our eyes and shoot to the surface. And when we get there, we're going to discover that we are far stronger and far more powerful than we were before. I mean, think about this. The VMA was always about cooperation and collaboration. But now, in the last year, we've all become accustomed to speaking to each other through our laptops, through our mobile devices. Our eyes are basically 6 inches away from each other's eyes when we have those conversations. It's closer than when we talk in real life. We are going to be able to communicate and do things much greater going forward because of this, and much faster. So I'd like to add another C word to cooperation, collaboration, and communication, and that is curiosity. Now, I lost a couple of friends over the last little more than a year that really speak to the power of curiosity. And they can give us all a message. They passed it on to me, and I thought about it for this year. Those friends were Larry King and Kobe Bryant. Now you say, Larry King, we can understand that. Larry grew up in the streets of Brooklyn, New York. His dad died when he was 9, grew up on relief. New York City bought his first pair of glasses, and yet he harnessed his curiosity, this pure curiosity, to go from radio to cable TV, to be beamed around the world and become one of the most well-known people on the planet. Now, Kobe Bryant, you're probably thinking, where are you going with this, Cal? Kobe Bryant, the NBA star, guy who had 3-pointers at the buzzer? Well, if you ever had a long conversation with Kobe, he would have told you that curiosity was at the center of his success. And he explained it like this. When he was going through rough times, he would stop and say, okay, I've got something that I need to improve for next season. And when the season would end, he would take time to be curious about how he needed to improve. And he'd make a plan. And then he'd begin to execute that plan. And then the season would start. And so at the end of the season, in the championship game, when you saw him make that 3-pointer to win, the ultimate competitor is jaw locked, teeth grinding, puts it up at the buzzer, scores. That, he said, was really just his curiosity being executed and polished. Curiosity is the small key that can open any heavy door. So I want to pass on a last story that will show you the power of curiosity and the power of a good question, because maybe you want to take a minute and think about, hey, how can we help the Federation of Virginia Food Banks? We're going to raise $100,000 here, and we're more than halfway there. But how? How can we get over that 100,000? All it's going to take is a little curiosity, a little communication. Now you're on the computers. Now you're passing along messages much faster than you were doing 2 years ago. You can do it face to face. We can come up with a solution to pull this off, and I know you will. So I'm going to tell you one last story about the power of a single question based in curiosity. So let me take you back to February 2008. New Orleans. Mikhail Gorbachev is giving a talk about abolishing nuclear weapons. This is years after he was leader of the Soviet Union, and I'm sitting in a lobby waiting to ask him any question I want in order to fill out Esquire's What I've Learned column. Well, I'm well prepared, ready to go, sitting in that hotel lobby, and the phone rings. It's the publicist. Cal, sorry to tell you, but your conversation with Mr. Gorbachev is going to have to be cut short. Now I'm concerned because the thing about this column I write is it's not in my words. It's in the subject's words. It's in Gorbachev's words. So those words can't be just any words, and they got to be wise words, and there's no way for me to fluff this up or fill it out. I need at least an hour to reach into his soul and extract the wisdom to fill out that column. At the very least, 45 minutes. How much time have I got? 10 minutes? 10 minutes? That's impossible. I can't make this work in 10 minutes. Please. Cal. A lot of very important people have been added to the list to see Mr. Gorbachev. There's nothing I can do about it. Do you want the time or not? Well, of course I take the time. But as I hang up the phone, I'm feeling worse and worse and worse about this. And here's why. Because I know I'm going to walk in that room. We're going to shake hands. We're going to exchange pleasantries. We're going to be seated. And there's 2 minutes right there. Plus, my questions got to be translated into Russian and his answers back to English. That's another 2 minutes right there. This interview is down to 6 minutes before it even gets started. But you can only do your best. So the appointed time arrives. Publicist escorts me into the hotel conference room, and there he is, Gorby. He looked a little older than I remembered. He's about 77 at the time. And I'm looking at him, and I can just tell that he's expecting my first question to be about nuclear weapons, Ronald Reagan, world events. And so, right off the bat, my curiosity summoned up this question. What was the best lesson that your father ever taught you? And Gorbachev's surprised. Surprised in a pleasant way. He doesn't say anything. He looks up. He's searching. And then it's as if he's seeing a movie of his childhood playing on the ceiling. And he starts telling me this story of when he was a boy. And his dad got called up to fight in World War II. Now, the Gorbachevs lived on a farm. And so he's telling me about the trip from the farm to the town where his father was going to join the soldiers and go to war. And he's telling me this in loving detail. And I'm sitting there transfixed. I can't believe it. I didn't read this in any articles or any books or didn't see it on any interviews. This is amazing. But another part of my brain is screaming, wrong question. This interview is going to be over before the Gorbachevs even get to town. But they do get to town. And when they get to town, Mr. Gorbachev takes everybody in the family into a little shop. And he buys ice cream for them all. And Gorbachev is remembering this ice cream. He's remembering the aluminum cup that this ice cream was served in. He's talking about this aluminum cup of ice cream as if it was resting in the palm of his hand. And the more he talked about this ice cream, the more it seemed like we both came to this realization that this cup of ice cream was the reason he was able to make peace with Ronald Reagan and end the Cold War, because this cup of ice cream contained the memory of what it was like just before his father went to war, the dread of not knowing whether he'd ever see his dad again. So he's looking at the ice cream, I'm looking at the ice cream, he's looking at the ice cream, I'm looking at the ice cream. We look up at each other and we're thinking, man, this is deep. Just then, knock on the door. It's the publicist. Mr. Gorbachev, time for the interview. And Gorbachev looks at the publicist, looks at the interpreter, looks back at me. No, he said, I want to talk to him. Publicist is surprised. She backs out the room. Conversation continues, goes deeper. 10 minutes later, another knock on the door. Mr. Gorbachev, Cal, time? No, Gorbachev says, I want to talk to him. Publicist backs out the room again. Conversation continues, goes deeper. 10 minutes later, another knock on the door. This time, the publicist is in a full-out panic. Mr. Gorbachev, please. This day was planned to the minute. I've got a long line of people outside the door waiting to see you. I don't know how we're going to make this day work. Cal, please. And Gorbachev looks at me with this shrug that says, hey, what can I do? Well, our conversation concluded, but I had enough to fill up the column, and it was a huge success. And when I thought back on why, I realized if I hadn't aimed my first question for his heart, I never would have gotten that insight. If I'd gone in with a canned question, I would have gotten a canned answer. The interview would have ended in 6 minutes, and I never would have known what was possible. So I want to leave you with one last point. I want to encourage you to all use your curiosity in the coming days, because the questions that you come up with may lead to ideas and execution that somebody on a stage at the 200th anniversary of the VMA is going to be talking about. I wish you all congratulations and much health to you and yours going forward. Cheers.
What an amazing message. Cal, thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
Fantastic stories.
Great introduction. All-time classic.
Fantastic stories.
Cheers.
Nice meeting you, man. Thank you all for continuing to watch. Thank you all that have already called in to make a donation. Next, we're going to have a quick message from our centennial sponsor, Norfolk Southern. Following that, we will hear some important and pertinent information from Executive Director Eddie Oliver with the Federation of Virginia Food Banks.
We are very happy to be celebrating VMA 2020 and 100 years of this organization. I think it really speaks to, not every organization is around for 100 years, but it really speaks to the importance of this area and the importance of this association, really, and what it's done and what it can do for members. It's clearly shown that it has a clear benefit, and it will for some time to come. And so we're very, very happy to celebrate that with the association.
Hello again. Earlier, I gave you the big picture of hunger in Virginia, but I want to share one story that illustrates the impact that your donations will have on a single life. Last fall, I met a woman named Ethel and her husband at a parking lot in New Kent, Virginia. They come to this church parking lot once a month to pick up groceries distributed through a community ministry. They're on a fixed income, and their budget just doesn't stretch all the way to the end of the month. The time that I saw them, they received 2 packages of chicken thighs, a large packet of Canadian bacon, fresh corn, a loaf of bread, and a gallon of milk. In addition, they got a pre-packed We Care food box, a 15-pound, 5-day emergency food supply package. This package also included helpful COVID-19 related healthcare tips. When I talked to Ethel, she was grateful for all the food, but she said she and her husband were particularly appreciative of the emergency food box. She said, "It makes us feel safe because we know it's been prepackaged, and so we don't have to worry about being exposed to the virus." The We Care food boxes are just one example of how the Federation can work to address the immediate hunger needs at scale across the entire Commonwealth. By June of this year, we will have sourced and distributed nearly 250,000 food boxes since the start of the pandemic. But we're also focused on how we can eliminate hunger in the future, too. We recognize, as a food bank system, that we're part of a much bigger picture when it comes to the safety net, the larger food system, and poverty. We've come to recognize it's not enough for us to simply feed the line. We must work to shorten the line, too. We are actively building new partnerships with state government, agriculture and industry groups, and healthcare organizations to not only improve the supply of good, nutritious food going into the system, but helping folks address poor healthcare outcomes associated with food insecurity. There's a growing body of evidence around the correlation between food insecurity and poor healthcare outcomes. And that's why across the board, the healthcare sector is recognizing the power of treating food as medicine, and we're working to develop innovative partnerships with them across the state. It's also why we're focused on getting more fruits and vegetables into our pantries, and we're actively exploring new ways to improve the nutritional literacy and cooking skills of the families we serve. And of course, where we can source locally grown and processed food products within Virginia and help strengthen Virginia's ag economy, we're doing so. I hope the story I shared with you helps drive home the fact that your support makes a real difference in the lives of the people we serve. It's important to know that on average, our food banks can turn $1 into 4 meals. That's the power of food banks in our economy of scale. For every $30 donated, we can provide one of those prepackaged food boxes that I mentioned earlier to someone else like Ethel. Nothing is more essential to the basic health, well-being, and dignity of people than having enough to eat. Even once we're past the challenges of our current moment, we still have a long way to go to ensuring that all Virginians have that basic level of dignity. But I continue to be impressed by the innovative approaches that our food banks are taking to stay ahead of the curve and anticipate the changing needs of our community. However, we're only able to do so as a result of your generosity. With your support and partnership, we will lead the way to a hunger-free future in Virginia. Thanks so much.
Thank you for still watching, everyone. If you haven't made that donation yet, please do so now. We're running out of time. We don't have much time left in the program today. If you've already made that donation, thank you so much. And we're closing in on our goal objective of $100,000. We're very close, folks. We're very close, and we're going to get there with your support and with your help. If you have not yet donated, like I said, take that moment to find that little button on the website, whatever level you can afford, to come in to make your donation. The food bank relies on donations from individuals like us to assist with these serious and life-changing issues in our communities. Another one of our Centennial sponsors is Van Deventer Black. Following their video message, we will hear again from VMA President Mike Coleman.
We're very happy to come aboard as a sponsor initially for the VMA anniversary because it's so important not just to the community but to us. We've been members of the VMA since the beginning, and we actively participate in the VMA at various levels, including at the board level, various committees, and in other opportunities to help support their activities.
Since the creation of the Virginia Port Authority in 1952, the VMA has worked closely with all of its executive directors and management teams with the common goal of growing our international commerce in Virginia. That close collaboration has produced significant results over the years, from the unification of our marine terminals in the late 70s to major terminal expansions to making this port the deepest, widest, and safest port on the U.S. East Coast. The work continues, and we look forward to the leadership of the port's newest chief executive, Mr. Stephen Edwards. As CEO and executive director of the Port of Virginia, Stephen is responsible for the broad, pragmatic areas of business and relationship development, infrastructure development, strategic marketing, economic development, finance, security, and safety. He directs and manages the operations of Virginia's marine and inland terminal facilities through Virginia International Terminals, the port's private terminal operating company, including Virginia International Gateway, Newport News Marine Terminal, Norfolk International Terminals, Portsmouth Marine Terminal, Richmond Marine Terminal, and the Virginia Inland Port. He has a lot on his plate, and Stephen, it's a beautiful plate. He is a globally experienced leader in the maritime industry with extensive operational experience and a proven track record of growing business and creating long-term value for customers and stakeholders. Before joining the Port of Virginia, Stephen served as President and Chief Executive Officer for TradePac, Ports America Group, and P&O Ports North America. Stephen holds a Bachelor of Science in Transport Management from Aston University in England. We are fortunate to have someone with his experience and industry reputation leading our port into the future. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Stephen Edwards to our port to share some of his vision with us today. Stephen?
Thank you, Mike, for the kind introduction, and thank you to everybody who's welcomed me into our port community. I've been here a month, and it's been a wonderful welcome from everybody, all concerned. As Cal said, what were the people 100 years ago thinking? 100 years ago was the era of the steamship. The steamship enabled what I think we refer to as the first wave of trade globalization. 1920 was when the Jones Act was started to protect and build the US maritime industry. What followed when we came to the marine diesel engine was something probably not thought of by the people who first signed the charter, and what has developed from there in technology to create the sheer scale of what we handle today. The VMA has supported and advocated for the port as we've modernized our facilities to meet these scales. And because of their advocacy, because of Virginia's commitment to our business, we now have the most modern and most capable port in the United States. The other big change of the last 100 years, certainly in my part of the industry, has been containerization. Containerization started in the 1950s. So in the 1920s, it was not thought of. So I think it's difficult for all of us to say, what will the people think of in 100 years' time when they look back and say, where has our industry developed to? So I thought I'd try and offer two thoughts of things we know are going to happen. First of all, scale. Vessels are getting bigger. Ships are getting larger. The amount of cargo being moved is increasing. We think we handle large ships today, but the ships that are being built for the business we are in are 70% larger than the ones we serve today. There's no doubt that the sheer scale, the sheer velocity of the trade we are going to have to move is going to need some innovative thought, and it's going to need our constant commitment to improving and enhancing our ports. But in my opinion, the most significant change that we do know is coming is going to be the decarbonization of our industry. We've talked about the need for all these infrastructure pieces, but at the same time, we've got to say, what are we doing in freight-related transportation to decarbonize our business? And the International Maritime Organization has made some strong commitments, very strong commitments to all of us in this business. They said we'll reduce our CO2 emissions globally 40% by 2030, 70% by 2050. So we know what's coming in the next 30 years. We've got to take 70% of our emissions out of this business within that period. So this is going to lead to a lot of fun. And I mean fun, because now we've got to assess what technologies are we going to use? What innovations are we going to use? What bright thinking are we going to bring to the table to achieve these goals? Are we going to use LNG? Are we going to use hydrogen? Are we going to use battery? Or even are we going to return to wind? And as crazy as that sounds, given we all started with sailing ships, it is what's coming back to a degree in certain markets, that people are putting wind assistance into their vessels. In ports and terminals, for our mobile transportation, will we use battery or will we use hydrogen? We've already electrified. So by electrifying, we're getting ready for this decarbonization. And with that electrification comes the offshore industry. We have a unique chance, a unique opportunity now in Hampton Roads to really establish ourselves as the center of excellence for the offshore wind market. It's an opportunity we can't miss. It's going to help us with all these decarbonization goals, and it's going to create Hampton Roads as the leading entity in that industry. Just as the Gulf ports were the leading for the fossil fuel industry, we can now be the leader in the clean industry. I'd like to finalise by saying the VMA has been a great advocate for us for 100 years, those of us involved in the port industry. I really look forward to helping foster the relationship for the start of the next century, and I look forward to working with the VMA mission as we go forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for that encouraging message, Stephen. We greatly appreciate it. And again, if you've already made your donation, thank you so much. If you haven't made that donation, there's still just a little bit of time left to get that donation in. We are closing in just about there on $100,000, which is our goal objective. Thank you so much. I hope that everyone here with us today realizes that the Federation of Virginia Food Banks is not just a charity, not just a charity. It is an answer to a tremendous problem, and it is a chance to change families' lives. Please give. Please give now. And give with your whole heart. You can make a difference with that contribution. Use the button right there on the screen. Whatever amount you can handle, it makes a difference. It's easy to help, and it's easy to give hope to members of our communities. The food bank and their partner agencies operate programs such as soup kitchens, after-school programs, senior centers, and elderly feeding programs, Head Start, transitional housing, mental health programs, homeless and domestic violence shelters, and individual household distribution. There are still thousands of Virginia families that need our help, folks. We can make a difference today. We can tackle this together right now with our generous commitments. We are almost at the conclusion of our journey together today. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your children. Let's change more lives and work together to support our communities. The Virginia Maritime Association has evolved from a Hampton Roads organization evolved solely in vessels and waterfront interests to an organization with a statewide membership. And if you're a member, thank you so much. Connecting and representing port supply chain interest in every corner of the Commonwealth, from farmers and manufacturers to waterfront marine highways to distant markets. Our statewide regional chapters allow our members to connect with each other, participate in activities, be better informed, and address issues in their regions. Today, on the last day of the 100th year, we have a special message from VMA Executive Director David White to close out our century celebrations. David has been with the VMA since 2003, and he took the helm of the organization in 2018. But first, we will show you a special video about what VMA has in store for the future of the maritime industry. I've enjoyed our time together today. I'm Jay Sennett, host and producer of Senate in Session and the Army Chronicles and WHR VFM, and we thank you for your support and all of you who've contributed today for this wonderful event. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful next 100 years.
The future of the Virginia Maritime Association is in this room.
I think it's a very exciting time, very exciting thing to be a part of.
There's a lot of knowledge within the youth here, and there's a lot of desire to keep learning about the industry and to stay in the industry as well.
These young men and women are so dedicated to their industry that they participated in the VMA's Maritime Leadership Certificate Program.
We really wanted to come up with a program that gave sort of the up-and-comers in our industry an opportunity to get a comprehensive understanding of the maritime industry.
The VMA has done a spectacular job in promoting, harnessing, and mentoring the next generation.
Indeed, it's what VMA has always done.
If helping to grow our port, our industry, Virginia's economy is something that provides meaning to you, then this is a place where you can participate and do that.
And see the results of your labor, because as the 21st century unfolds, global trade, from machinery to soybeans and so much more, will only grow.
In 2050, we're going to have 10 billion people in the world. We're going to be needing to feed all of those people. And U.S. agriculture, Virginia agriculture, is a key to that.
and the agency that operates the state's cargo terminals is looking ahead to the need for more infrastructure.
Some of the future focus is going to be on Craney Island, and with Craney Island coming online to be able to support basically what NIT and VIG are doing collectively. Our goal is to be the premier port on the East Coast. So I think the leadership within the organization, they're constantly watching what's going on the East Coast to make sure we always have a competitive edge.
Thanks to the education efforts of the Virginia Port Authority and the VMA, the Commonwealth of Virginia is listening and responding to the needs of the port.
I'm comfortable that while we can't let our guard down, that Virginians all over the state understand the importance to it and what the economic benefits bring to the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Indeed, the state committed $350 million to expand the capacity of its terminals and another $350 million for the critical deepening and widening of the main shipping channel into the Hampton Roads Harbor. That has kept the port front and center at the state capitol in Richmond.
And every year, the General Assembly has been investing in it. So as we've been investing in it, the members have learned more about it as it goes.
I met with people who wanted to come and start businesses in the community where I live, and they said, number one is our proximity to the Port of Virginia. So it's actually a big deal, and a bigger deal than probably many, many people understand.
Kimberly Clark heads the VMA's Southern Virginia chapter, an area ripe for trade-oriented development and within a manageable drive to the coast.
We're a little over 4 hours, but we have a great demographic location for growth, for warehousing, or for people who's wanting to build.
And across the state, new and wider roads are always a priority.
We'd love to see some improved means of transportation across the southern part of the Commonwealth, moving product out to the 7781 area and actually being that gateway to the Midwest that we talk about.
Beyond highways, the next frontier for the maritime industry and VMA could well be offshore wind, which would create significant onshore manufacturing opportunities.
Of course, that would be thousands of jobs, good-paying jobs, that helps Hampton Roads, but also those state revenues come in from all the payrolls, what helps all Virginians.
The ports are not only a vital part of our economy, but the economy of the Commonwealth as a whole. I think we need to impart on some of our folks from across the state how important the port is to not only getting things to them, but getting things from them, import and exports.
The VMA commemorated its commitment to the future and reverence for the past last February in Richmond with the inking of a new charter similar to one signed exactly 100 years earlier by 56 Norfolk maritime business leaders. Among the signers were some of the future leaders, eager to make their mark on the industry and the VMA.
I hope you know that in 100 years they can be recognizing us for, making a difference and helping with this expansion and the growth that's going on in our community. I hope that I can be a part of that and be recognized for that.
Greetings. I am David White, and I have the honor and privilege to be the Executive Director of the Virginia Maritime Association. I thank the VMA Board, our VMA 2020 sponsors, our members, and everyone that helped us celebrate 100 years of growth. I want to offer special thanks to Scott Wheeler, our Board Chair, our President Mike Coleman, Raymond Newland, Chair of the VMA 2020 Committee, and all of his committee members. Their leadership and contributions in the years leading up to and during our centennial have been tremendous. I also thank everyone that made contributions to the Federation of Virginia Food Banks. The need is great, and we need to keep supporting each other. In addition, I extend VMA's thanks to Governor Northam, Cal Fussman, Stephen Edwards, our Master of Ceremonies, Jay Sinnott, great job, Jay, and especially the hardworking VMA staff for your contributions to make today's program a success. Because of them and the strong support from our maritime community, including 100% participation from our board, we have raised enough money to have a significant impact in our community. The money raised will feed families across Virginia that are dealing with hunger. It is my pleasure to present this check in the amount of $104,125 to Eddie Oliver, Executive Director of the Federation of Virginia Food Banks. Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you.
If anyone watching has not yet contributed, or if you wish to increase your contribution, please donate as soon as you can at vafoodbanks.org. In 1920, 56 business leaders of the day recognized there was promise in the region's naturally deep waters and sheltered harbor, promise which would only be recognized through collective efforts. Understanding that a rising tide lifts all boats, in the spirit of cooperation and collaboration, they formed an alliance, today's Virginia Maritime Association, under which even competitors could come together to pursue mutual business interest and economic prosperity for their community. The ensuing 100 years brought changes that may have been unimaginable to our founders. As the world and industry changed, the VMA also continued to grow and evolve to meet the challenges and seize the opportunities of the day, as well as those on the horizon. For a century, the VMA has led, lobbied for, or influenced every major development related to port and trade. Our port and our industry have flourished, and today contributes over 530,000 jobs throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. Today's VMA is an organization with a statewide membership connecting and representing port and supply chain interests in every corner of the Commonwealth, from the farms and manufacturers to the waterfront and the marine highways connecting Virginia businesses to global markets. Like our founders, we cannot know what changes the next 100 years will bring. However, as VMA's second century begins, we remain committed to providing the services and information, the connections, and the representation and influence our members and our industry deserve. As it was in 1920, it is still true today and for our future that VMA's strength comes from our membership. If your company is not a VMA member, values collaboration as a strength, and will support our mission to promote, protect, and encourage commerce through Virginia's ports, then we invite you to become a member. You will find more information about us and the many benefits of membership at vamaritime.com. Each year since 1920, we have held a banquet, except last year due to the pandemic. It is the premier event in our industry and has grown to attract an annual attendance of nearly 1,000 people from all over that are part of our industry and maritime community. The ringing of this ship's bell has become a tradition of that banquet, and we will carry that tradition forward. I will now ring the bell once to symbolize the conclusion of our first 100 years, and then a second time to ring in the next century of maritime industry growth. That concludes our program. Thank you for being with us today, and thank you for your generous support of those in need of help. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to all of the guests. Thank you, staff. Thanks to everybody here at the